contradictions in the genealogy of Jesus Christ. We see a different one in Matthew than we do in Luke. See, the Bible's wrong. It's corrupt. No, my friend, it's not. And we're going to look at that right now. Let's get into it. Let's look at the scriptures and let's see what they say. So the Bible contains two different genealogical records for Jesus. One in Matthew 1, chapter 1, verses 1 through 17, which is very Jewish, by the way. And the other one is in Luke chapter 3. So let's look at that right now. I mean, yeah, they're very, very different, but they're not contradictory because they're not both speaking about the lineage of Joseph, his stepfather. One of them is from Mary. Let's take a look. Let's take a look right now. So here it is. So we see that the genealogies were important to Jewish people. If you wanted to buy or sell land, you had to produce a genealogical record. That was the whole thing back then. Was you want to buy some land here in the tribal area, the land of Judah, you better prove that you were from the lineage of Judah. You better show those genealogical records, and that's what was going on in this time. So let's continue on. This is so fun, right? Okay, so the land had to stay within your tribal allotment. It couldn't go to another tribe. This was in the law, right? This is something that was very important to the Jewish people. So right here on this map, you can see that up here we have the area of Manasseh, right? One of the sons of Joseph. Over here is another part of Manasseh. And then Ephraim, this is the part just north of Jerusalem in the area today that's called Samaria, or they might call it the West Bank, but it's actually Samaria. And then the area for Benjamin was just right in here where Jerusalem was. And then this whole area down here to the south was all Judea. This is the land of Judea. And you could see that Simeon was inside of Judea, and the Levite tribe was absorbed into this tribe, and they served here in Jerusalem. That's what we see here. So that's a little bit of how it was broken down and why the land of Israel was separated like that by tribe, and how you had to prove that to buy land there that you were a part of those tribes. So you could not serve in the priesthood unless you could prove your direct lineage all the way back to Aaron, right? The tribe of Levi, but all the way back, if you wanted to work in the temple, the tribe of Aaron. So the Aaronic tribe, as they might say, or that's how it's worded. So anybody claiming to be the Messiah, right? If somebody came up to you and said, "Hey, I'm Jesus," or "Hey, I'm the Messiah," they had to prove it by a genealogical record. They had to prove the bloodline through their tribe. So what we see in Matthew, Matthew is a descending, it goes downward, right? It's a descending genealogical record, starting with the top and moving down, the son of, right? So that's what we see there. Luke is an ascending genealogical record. It goes up. It starts at the bottom and it moves upward. So that's how they're both laid out. They're both laid out differently. So it begins with Joseph, and then it goes to Heli. Heli, who's this guy? I thought Joseph's father was Jacob, right? That's what you see in Matthew. The Joseph of Jesus, the stepfather of Jesus, his father was Jacob, or Yaakov, if you're in Israel. In Hebrew, it's Yaakov. But here we see, in Luke, we see Heli. What's that about? Well, it's a different genealogical record. It's for Mary. And it's interesting because Luke starts out talking about Mary, and Matthew talks about Joseph primarily at the beginning. So that's what we see there. So it's between David and Abraham. Matthew and Luke are identical, right? When it talks about between David and Abraham, those two sections of sons and begots and all that stuff, we see that they're identical in that part, but not in the lower part when it gets to the lower parts of, after David, basically. So different names are used because we have two different family trees. Very simple, guys. So Yosef or Joseph, we see in the Gospel of Matthew, it's all laid out there, and it's Joseph's genealogy. Yes, it wasn't his bloodline father, right? It's a stepfather, but he still has the legal right through him. So Jacob fathered Joseph, the husband of Mary, by whom Jesus was born, who is called the Messiah. That's what we see in Matthew chapter 2. And Joseph's dad was a guy named Jacob or Yaakov or Jacob, right? And that's how we see it lined up, which is really interesting to me because there's a picture, a snapshot of Old Testament Joseph there, right? And there's this old tradition, you guys, we're going to get into this later, but there's this old rabbinic and sages all wrote about this Messiah, son of Joseph. They were waiting for a Messiah who looked a lot like Joseph, who came from the tribe of Joseph, not just the tribe of David. They thought there was 2, maybe even 3, sometimes 4 Messiahs, but it was actually all Jesus. And it was his first coming fulfilled part of it, right? The suffering servant. The second coming is going to be the fulfillment of the king, right? Sitting on the throne of David. That's what we see in the second coming. And there was also a Messiah, son of Levi, that they thought was coming too, because he fulfills the priesthood as well. Well, Mary was also related to a Levite tribe members like Elizabeth, right? So we're going to see that in this episode as well. It's awesome. So the Gospel of Luke is Mary's genealogical record. That's what we see here, guys. All right, let's continue on. So Luke, in Luke, it says Joseph, and then it says the son of Heli. What's that about? Well, let's take a closer look at that. Heli means ascending, going up, right? That's what Heli means. And that's how we see this genealogical record. And it goes from Mary, whose father would have been Heli, right? And then whose father would have been the next, and then the next, and the next, because it's totally different than what we see in Matthew. So that's how it's explained, you guys, and it's the best explanation for it. So Luke does something none of the other gospel writers do. What is this? What does Luke do that's different? He emphasizes Mary at the beginning chapters of the gospel, right? Goes right along with the genealogy there. So Luke does not put much emphasis on Joseph at all, right? So we don't see that in this gospel of Luke. However, Matthew, right? Matthew, very Jewish book, by the way. Matthew emphasizes Joseph and doesn't put much emphasis on Mary. There we go. That explains it right there. And in the Greek language, there's a little word called tau, T-O-U, tau, and it means of. And that's what we see in this genealogical record, because Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they were all written in the Greek originally. So here in the Luke, we see that tau used, and it's in a genitive case, and it means ownership. That's what tau means in the Greek there. So all through the genealogical record, you have the son of this, the son of that, the son of this, the son of that, and that little word tau, right here, that little word tau is used in those. So what's interesting is it's used in every single name except one, and that is the name of Joseph in the original, in this Luke genealogy. That's what we see, you guys. So Matthew, going back to Matthew, we see a record of the genealogical record of Joseph all the way back to Abraham. He takes it all the way back to Abraham. Very interesting, right? But Luke is a genealogical record of Mary all the way back to Abraham, and then, check this out, and then all the way back to Adam. So it goes even further back. It goes into Genesis. Remember where the seed of the woman, remember that? All right, so there's 2 genealogical records. We have the legal record in Matthew, and we have the racial record in Luke. Very, very cool. So the son of David has to show that he has the legal right to the throne of David. If you're saying you're the Messiah, you have to have that legal right. And Jesus has that legal right through Joseph. But we know that Joseph was not the literal father. So what do? Well, it doesn't matter, because Jesus would have the legal right to reign because he is the legal son of Joseph. right? Isn't that cool? He's the legal son of Joseph. So as far as racial purity, that's where we come to Mary. Mary had those genes that were passed right on to Jesus because he was of fully, she was his mother, right? So a bloodline mother, that's who she was. She gave birth to Jesus. So Luke chapter 3 was Mary's line, and it says the son of Nathan, right? The son of David, the son of Jesse, the son of Obed, the son of Boaz, the son of Solomon. So we see that Nathan is mentioned here, right? So not through Solomon like Joseph, but through Nathan when we look at Mary's. And the blood lineage of King David had been cursed, which posed a problem. And that's why she was the distant relative of Nathan, that line, through Jesus, because there was no curse. So this is the curse. So back in Jeremiah 22, it says, Coniah, it's another name for Jeconiah, for none of his descendants, it says in Jeremiah 22, shall prosper, sitting on the throne of David and ruling any more in Judah. So that's a curse. And it says none of his descendants can sit on the throne of David. That's through who? Jeconiah. That's not the line that Mary had. So it's very interesting, right? So let's keep going in it. So in Matthew's genealogy, it follows the line all the way back to David, right? If you're in Israel, through King Solomon, including Jeconiah, on whom the blood curse was pronounced. So that line couldn't be the bloodline. It could be the father-in-law line, the right to the throne, but it can't be the bloodline. So through Mary's line, we see this. Mary's line, it's through David, not through Solomon, but through the second surviving son of Bathsheba named Nathan. And they named him after that awesome prophet who confronted David back in the day, Nathan. They had that much respect for him. So cool. So Mary's pure bloodline, uncursed bloodline, traces all the way back to King David. Perfect, right? That's all we need for the Messiah. So if you did a DNA test on Mary, you would see that it went all the way back through Nathan and then all the way back to King David. So cool. So Joseph's line, Jesus has the legal right to reign through him, through Joseph, right? That's how it worked. Through the father-in-law, you still had the legal right. So the bloodline is pure on Mary's side, right? But we see that she was a virgin, so there was no corruptible, sinful man that had his seed that caused baby Jesus to be born. No, it was the seed brought by the Holy Spirit, and then her pure bloodline through the tribe of David, right? Through the tribe of Judah, through David. And that's what we see here. A very Jewish woman named Mary, a very beautiful Jewish woman that God favored, and she birthed the Messiah. So awesome. That's the first Christmas, by the way. So Isaiah the prophet said this would be the sign. The virgin will conceive and bear a son, and you will call his name Emmanuel, which means what? God with us. It's God with us, you guys, and that is powerful. So we're going to look at this too, you guys. So there was, through the sages and the rabbis, way back, even in the BC times, way before Christ, they were looking for a Messiah, a suffering servant Messiah named Messiah, son of Yosef, or Mashiach bar Yosef, right? And that would be Messiah, son of Joseph. That's what they were waiting for. And here we see in Genesis 49, the prophecy that Yaakov had over his sons, the 12 tribes of Israel, right? And here's the part for Joseph. The archers provoked him and shot at him and were hostile toward him. But his bow remained firm and his arms were agile, right? Here it is, guys. Watch this. From the hands of the mighty one of Jacob, from there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Wow, that's very messianic language. That's very Messiah-like, right? From there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Speaking about Joseph, this was Jacob's prophecy about Joseph and his tribe. And it continues, and from the hands of the mighty one of Jacob, from there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Just wanted to read that one again. It's so powerful. So Messiah, son of Joseph, right? According to rabbinic literature, this is what they were saying. And this is even before the birth of Christ. This is what these guys were saying. He will come from Galilee, this Messiah, son of Joseph. He will come from Galilee. He dies outside the gates of Jerusalem. He dies an atoning death. He is resurrected. And after he dies, Israel goes into exile. All of those five things right there listed happened exactly. And that Messiah, son of Joseph, was fulfilled in Yeshua HaMashiach, if you're in Israel, Jesus the Messiah. He fulfilled those things, and that was written by rabbis and sages before the birth of Christ, you guys. So Messiah, son of Joseph, he received the DNA through Mary as well. He has both Davidic or David bloodline, and he has the Joseph bloodline through Mary. You might be saying, how do you know that? What are you talking about? Well, Ahaziah was a descendant of King David and ruled as the 6th king of Judah, right? Well, what does that mean? Well, Ahaziah was the son of Jehoram, right? Jehoram and Athaliah, the daughter or sister of King Ahab of Israel. This made Ahaziah a descendant of both the house of David and the house of Omri. And there's no biblical evidence for this, but there is a lot of evidence that this meant he had Joseph's blood, the tribe, the house of Joseph bloodline coming from northern Israel, right? Not Judah, but it was the northern tribes of Israel. Pretty amazing stuff, and that's right in the lineage of Mary. Also, we see that there was the priestly tribe. He received the DNA through Mary for this as well, because this is a fulfillment. Remember Moses said there'll be a prophet like me, right? Like Moses from the tribe of Levi. Well, she fulfilled that through the bloodline as well. Because it says in Luke, there was a priest named Zechariah of the division of Abijah, and he had a wife from the daughters of Aaron, so she was from the Levite tribe as well, right? And her name was Elizabeth, remember? The mother of John the Baptist. This is so good. Who was a cousin of Jesus. And behold, even your relative Elizabeth herself has conceived a son in her old age. We see in Luke chapter 1, verse 36. And this is the angel talking to Mary about what was going to happen there. So it's so awesome, you guys. Hey, my friend, if you have not checked out my book, this is my new book, See Jesus in the Old Testament. You can get it at Amazon or other fine bookstores. This is the hard cover right here. And it's 320 pages, chock full of illustrations and other things like that, where you will see Jesus in all of those Old Testament books. And it's so cool. And your heart will burn within you as you discover it. I think this book will be a great blessing to you or to a loved one. You can get it for Christmas or whatever, a birthday present. But I kept the price pretty low. The hardcover is only around $23. Paperbacks around $12, $13. And I think you'll be blessed by that, my friend. So check out that book. Here it is. Here's what it looks like as well. And you can get that on Amazon, my friend. But hey, if you would like to see the whole series, How to Find Jesus in the Old Testament, click on this playlist right here. You will be totally blessed by it. It's all free content. You can subscribe down below as well. Hit that subscribe button. Everything's free. There's no charge. And hit the bell too. You won't miss a thing. But I love you. God bless you, my friend. And click on this playlist right here.